There's a fear in Seattle that we took one step forward and now we'll be taking 2 miles back. That is, of course, if the progressives, as polling suggests, end up taking control in City Hall, both at the mayor's office, the Seattle City Attorney's office, and, of course, the City Council, which is why my next guest is here. She's council president. She's the incumbent, Sara Nelson. Welcome to the show. You're up for re-election. You're going up against a very progressive candidate who apparently says you don't even show up to work and you don't vote in committee meetings. But last time I checked, at least according to one of the ad campaigns, you're not actually in the committee she's accusing you of skipping.
Yeah, they're a little bit desperate to find negative things to say about me and putting out whatever they think will sell. But in fact, yeah, the accusation that I wasn't at a transportation committee meeting, I was instead doing a press conference about the upcoming election. Well, I'm not on the transportation committee, but that's the way it goes in these mailers.
Well, let's talk about the onslaught of attacks. You're facing a lot of them, while at the exact same time, Stranger comes out with a new poll that suggests the progressives are overperforming. I looked up this morning just the number of returned ballots in King County in general, but we're not even at 9%. We're in the bottom of the state. So what's the game plan here?
Well, first of all, we know that progressive people tend to vote later, which
is bad news. Because doesn't that suggest that the moderates are not voting right now?
Or that you get the moderate surge in the beginning and the progressive surge at the end, and this last weekend is where we're going to get a lot more votes. So I don't know if it's normal at this time compared to previous odd years when the citywide offices were up there, but doesn't really matter. I am just pushing my message, getting out all over the city and making sure that people understand my priorities and then listening to other people's.
Well, what's the message? What are the priorities that you're focusing on right now in a city where there are going to be some people who say they haven't seen progress enough? Now, of course, if they go with your opponent, they're not going to see any progress whatsoever. It's going to literally go back. But there is a valid criticism to say, you're on the council now, you're the council president, we want to see more of X, Y, and Z.
And I completely understand that. I'm a very impatient person, and I am frustrated with the slow pace of time as well. I mean, of progress as well. But the negative policies that brought our city to the condition in 2021, 2020, those were years in the making. Those will take time to undo. But I have been focused on the top three things that I think will make a difference. Number one, staffing up SPD. And now we're seeing record numbers of applications, and we reversed the trend of losing more officers than we can hire. That happened in Q1 with a net new officer of 1. And now this year's projected we'll have a net new 86 officers by the end of this year. We're working quickly toward our goal of getting back to 1,400 or 1,500. How did that happen? Here's what I see happened, or at least my role in it. I called for hiring bonuses for officers to compete better against the neighboring jurisdictions. And then I reformed the way the group that processes applications actually works. I threw a staffer in there, another one, so that somebody would make the call or send an email personalized to an applicant to SPD within 48 hours saying, "Thank you for applying. We're here to help you work through the process." That is ending up having a positive, that's what other cities do, and it's having a positive effect. So we're making progress on hiring more officers, and that will end up not just with more beat cops on the streets looking and seeing what's going on in neighborhoods, but that's also helps build trust between the population and the police department.
The problem, of course, is that, and this is all good, right? There's no doubt we need cops. I like how the city went from needing 1,600 cops. They revised that down to 1,400 cops, but whatever. We're going in the right direction.
Right.
The problem is, of course, it takes years for us to get to the point where we're fully staffed in the city of Seattle. And right now, there are people who walk around the neighborhood that they live in and they say, I don't feel safe.
Right.
So what is the plan in the interim between hiring the new cops, getting to the point where we're fully staffed and can proactively police, and addressing some of those issues?
Right. Well, you're asking the right question, but to the wrong person. right? Council passes the laws, makes the budget, and then provides the oversight of the executive departments. I'm not the boss of the police. I would like them to arrest the small-time drug dealers. They flip on the bigger drug dealers, and enforce the law around public use of fentanyl and meth in public.
So, do you view this as a Mayor Harrell problem? Is he not doing what he needs to as that executive?
I'm not an expert on police deployments. All I can say is that I don't have a say or any authority in how the officers are deployed. I have to believe that he's making the right decisions with the numbers of cops that they have. However, what I do believe will make a difference is arresting, nabbing the people that are at least selling drugs and trafficking in bodies, which is part of the drug world and trade, and also using the potential of going to jail as an incentive to get into treatment. And that has been my signature contribution to public safety.
That's been controversial, right? I mean, the left will say that you are criminalizing addiction, which is not quite what it is you're talking about here. You're simply leveraging. They've been saying that. Yeah, I know. They've been saying that for the last, decade or so, that the second that you leverage jail time against someone who is a user just to get them to turn on their drug dealer, somehow that is the wrong thing to do. But obviously we know that works.
Right. It's all hands on deck, every tool in the toolbox. Ultimately, we need to get people into treatment. Otherwise, and I mean treatment that will allow treatment that addresses all kinds of substance use disorders. We do have a lot of services offering methadone and buprenorphine, which are Medicaid medications for opioid use disorders. That does not help your meth addict. So inpatient or residential treatment that lasts a month or so is the way of really changing your mind around your practices. And we were not offering rehab when I was elected. I was shocked. And that is why I put forward the pilot program that simply parked some money in the Human Services Department, and our caseworkers could go out there, and when they encountered someone who was ready to take that step to recovery, all they had to do was call up the facility, and they got in, and then the city was paid as it went. And that is working.
At the same time, and I remember you were in a committee hearing, this might have been like 2 years ago,
yes,
where you were talking to someone who was providing resources, taxpayer funded, basically saying, well, we're not trying to get someone to quit drugs. Not everyone wants to quit drugs. And you were a little perplexed at someone taking a position like that. How much of that has changed at the city level, not the county level, because you don't have control over the county?
I think that the culture is changing. What you're talking about was the strict adherence to harm reduction, which is where you just...
Which doesn't work.
Right. Well, you meet people where they're at. It works when you're distributing needles because you're trying to reduce the harm of spreading disease.
Yeah, it doesn't stop someone from a drug addiction. It makes it, quote unquote, safer. In that they're not spreading diseases that are bloodborne.
And so I support that because you're, Hep C and HIV, you got to stop that spread. But when you are distributing meth pipes and foil so that people can smoke meth and fentanyl, that is not harm reduction. That is harm propulsion.
Yep.
The next hit that they take could kill them. And so that is why we have to offer on-demand treatment to be able to get these people, cut through all the hassle and bureaucracy, get those folks into a treatment center where they can really look at what is, after going through detox, really look at what is driving their drug use.
Do you think the city does enough to push back against the county? Because public health of King County and Seattle, they're doing precisely what you don't want them to do.
No, my answer is no.
What can be done?
We don't donate. We are one of the cities, maybe the only city in King County that actually, adds our own resources, $22 million to Seattle King County Public Health. And that money is dispersed to a lot of different things, dental clinics, et cetera. But what all the needs assessments show is that what we need is more resources working on the opioid epidemic. And so what I would like to do is cut out those programs that don't add resources to what we really, really need. I don't understand why we provide $22 million if they're not going to follow our policy goals.
So you're in
And
the
if
middle.
they're sending mixed messages
Yeah.
to people that are using drugs, you don't give out a meth pipe and think that they're all of a sudden going to think, gee, maybe I should give
Yeah,
it
I
up.
mean, they pick up on this. And of
Right.
course, the drug dealers know exactly
Right.
what's going on at the same time. You're in the middle right now of the budget season for Seattle City Council.
Yes.
Where are we exactly? You're pointing to, well, maybe we should be cutting some of these programs that don't actually make any sense.
Yes, I do want to proviso the money that is going to those nonprofits that are distributing drug supplies, drug consumption supplies, besides needles.
Do you have support to do that?
I am working on that right now. It might have to happen in the second round after the chairs package, etc. I tried to do it last year, didn't fly with the budget chair, so I'll be trying it again.
What happens if you're not in office and this issue comes up next year?
All hell breaks loose. Just kidding.
Are you kidding?
That is the thing that people don't understand is that it does take a while to get through the layers of city bureaucracy to really make the change that you want. And a lot of those people, that's an administrative decision that only the mayor can make. But it does take time to chip away at the middle management. Sometimes I call it the tyranny of middle management that has allowed their own policy priorities to go on as the top leader, the mayor, and then the department heads change all the time. There is an argument for saying that one term is where you establish your priorities and then you lay down the hammer in the next one.
Are people actually in the office?
Yes. I called the legislative department back 4 days a week. All the staff so that the analysts could help the council members that are also there every day. And so, ultimately 5 days would be ideal, but I do think that public service should be performed in public. I am not making a judgment on the private sector. Their job is different, but we serve the public.
They're to be clear, they're wrong too when they keep people working at home. They should be getting into the office also.
Yeah, it's not my job to tell the private sector what to do. My job is to try to get the city government to serve the people better.
You say specifically with council staff. Outside of that, city agencies, are they working in person?
Well, I do believe the executive departments are supposed to come in 2 days a week.
Is that acceptable to you, 2 days a week? I mean, if someone needs to come in because they, need a permit for something.
I would say 5 days is ideal. So you know what? I went to a conference. It was a National League of Cities conference, and it was for the presidents of city councils of large cities. And there were about 30 or 40 of us there. This was last year. And guess how many cities workers were not back 5 days a week?
How many?
3. Baltimore, Austin, and Seattle.
Yeah.
So we are in a bubble here. We don't understand what's happening all over the city. I went to, our sister city is New Zealand, so I went there for a little trip. They've been back since the pandemic. So we are an anomaly here in Seattle. So
last question for you. We're headed into this election. Ballots are in hands. What is truly on the line in your view?
What's on the line is do we go with someone with the experience of taking on tough fights and winning them? Me. I took on the port to get workforce housing in the Stadium District because we've got a housing affordability crisis. My opponent has no plans. She'll utter the soundbite policies. We need to do this. We need to do that. But we're already doing a lot of those things. When you are challenging an incumbent, it's your responsibility to come to the table with new ideas that will be better than what's already happening. That hasn't happened. I have no idea what she plans to do differently than what we're already doing, why it would be better. The one thing that she seems to be running on is a municipal gains tax. She was involved apparently in the state municipal gains tax, and that's what she wants to do in Seattle.
I heard she was barely involved in that.
Right. I couldn't find any records that showed she made any testimony. But the point is, we have got to start focusing, we're doing that. We have to focus on the results of our investments, not just the investment itself. Instead of always looking for new revenue, we need to be making sure that we are getting the results of our existing money, the taxpayers' dollars that are being spent. That's what's most important. You have to have a plan. You have to identify the problem that you want to fix, how you're going to fix it with this new revenue, and then make the case for new revenue. That's not happening. It's just this sort of knee-jerk request from all these candidates that will solve it. More money will not solve if we're doing the same thing.
You jokingly say all hell will break loose if you don't win, although I don't think it's a joke. I do think that we're headed for utter disaster in this city if you're not reelected. So I wish you the best of luck.
Well, can I just say one more thing? My opponent says voters want change. And to that I say, change from what? From cleaner parks where you can use the playfields, change from more officers on the street. I don't think that people want to go backwards in that way. In fact, I think that I am the change. I am the change from years of failed policies that got our city to 2021 conditions. And so I want to keep on, fixing the impacts of those failed policies and get us back to a city that's fighting forward for a lot of the good things we've got coming.
And we hope you're in that position. I cast my vote for you. I think it's important. And for all the progressives out there, she's a conservative. No, she's not. I wish she was a conservative. She's just a moderate Democrat who actually makes sense in a city, and I'm not going to get my conservative. So I happily voted for Sara Nelson. You're watching and listening to the Jason Rantz Show. If you're listening on the radio, this full video is available at seattlered.com.